Welcome back. In this final lecture on beta decay, we will look at how selection rules are utilized in the context of beta decay. To understand much of spectroscopy or much of these selection rules, the nuclear shell model is very useful. There is a lot of similarities between the atomic shell model, wherein we think about electronic transitions, and the nuclear shell model. The utility is rather similar. We've talked about the analogy in some previous lectures, but I'm stressing that this is a very useful model when you think about selection rules. So how it is typically dealt with is the following. Supposing there are certain transitions, so you look at the changes in nuclear spin and changes in the angular momentum of the nucleon that is getting transition and changes in parity. If there are no change in spin and angular momentum and no change in parity, that is called a super allowed transition. So in typically allowed transition, FT, we have also have had a lecture on how do you compute approximate expression for log FT in some previous um, slide set. So for allowed transition, FT should be between 10 to the 3 to 10 to the 9. So log FT would be between 3 to 9, right? So if in this case, so there are different classifications. Okay, so in supposing delta L is 1 and there is a change in parity, it is still allowed, um, and so on. So depending upon the changes in nuclear spin, angular momentum, and parity, we are able to classify that certain transitions are possible, allowed, and certain things are not allowed or forbidden. So whenever you have a forbidden transition, log FT is much larger. Okay, so you should go back and look at the way we have interpreted FT. It has to do with decay constants and so on. All right, so this is also elaborated in this reference. You can go through it, and we will give some examples how this is used. These are all to do with beta decay. So this nucleus can have two possible transition. This decay is second forbidden by the second forbidden rule. Okay, so all this is what we mean by second, third forbidden type, and fourth forbidden type. So this becomes increasingly forbidden. Okay, um, right. So this is more forbidden compared to this particular transition. Therefore, the branching ratio of this is more than the branching ratio of this transition. The thing I want you to note is that even though the energy decrease going from here to here is larger because of certain constraints. So the constraints are to do with certain conservation laws. So these are all have to be constrained, and whenever something is not constrained, certain other reasons come into play. Um, so the way you think about angular momentum in quantum mechanics is much more complicated than the way you think about angular momentum in quantum mechanics. Classical mechanics is much more simpler, but angular momentum in quantum mechanics is much more complex. Even the addition of angular momentum, there are a lot of subtleties. We won't go into that, but all I want you to take home is uh, the spin quantum number are indicative of spin angular momentum. Okay, so some things have to be conserved, and when something is not conserved, it becomes increasingly difficult to undertake such a transformation. So so despite an energetic driving force, the kinetics is much slower, right? And one more example. Here, this is an allowed transition. This is also an allowed transition, both a beta minus decay. Again, so when you look at the branching ratio, there is a greater propensity to go to this state compared to going to this state. All right. So this is an excited state, but this has a finite lifetime. So it is like an isomer state of this nucleus. So this being, even though this is higher, the branching ratio is greater. So once the nucleus is in this state, it can get de-excited by three modes. One is it can emit a gamma photon and get into this state, or here it can even emit a neutron. Okay, this is more interesting. So this can emit a neutron. So therefore, atomic number does not change, but the atomic weight decreases. So the neutron in this pathway, neutron will get released. Even though this transition is allowed, I mean, there is no constraint based on selection rules. This is not observed, and the general reason that is given, at least in here, without going into additional details, is that the energy difference between this and this state is much larger. So all these things gives some indication of complexity in mechanisms, right? So finally, when there's an energy transfer, certain modes have to be excited and so on. So there are a lot of detailed study of the dynamical mechanisms involved in all these transitions. We won't go into all those things within the scope of this course. All I'm trying to do is with this first table. Okay, so if you know how to calculate changes in nuclear spin, changes in angular momentum, and changes in parity, once you have that data with you, you can get an idea of what is allowed and what is forbidden. Okay, so that is the main way selection rules are utilized within the context of beta decay. So this completes our lectures on beta decay. In the next lecture, we will go into the final transition. This is the gamma transition. Thank you.